Senator from Georgia.
Ask unanimous consent to address the Senate for up to 5 minutes.
Without objection.
Madam President, I want to commend Chairman Sanders for his leadership. Last night at 9:30, I came back to the Capitol and executed a conference committee agreement that he's worked very hard on, and Ranking Member Richard Burr worked very hard to pull together desperate factions to address the needs of our veterans in a bill that's going to be a toolkit for Robert McDonald, who I hope will be unanimously approved as the next Secretary of the VA on the President's Cabinet. And I rise to talk about Mr. McDonald, but before I do, I want to talk about that conference report. The VA, our veterans have been abused in the last 10 to 12 years because of veterans medical services that has not performed the services they need to perform for our veterans in America. And one of the reasons they didn't is Admiral Shinseki, who was the former secretary, was actually insulated from a lot of the information that was going on in his own department by the senior leadership at the VA, which had become comfortable and passive and not active in terms of the operation of VA medical services. The bill that we signed last night that the Senate will vote on in the next few days is a bill that gives Mr. McDonald and the next secretary to come the tools they need to enforce the VA and to make it a responsive organization to the 22 million veterans, 600.5 million who use veterans medical services, and to the 774,000 veterans in my home state of Georgia who deserve and demand, if you will, the services they were promised they went into the United States military. Bob McDonald is an outstanding American. He was president, CEO, and chairman of the board of one of the most respected companies in America, Procter & Gamble. He's the father of two, grandfather of two additional children. He's an outstanding American, and his wife, Deanne, is an outstanding lady in support of him in his job at Procter & Gamble, and he's going to need that support now as he heads the VA. He was a captain in the United States military, graduated from West Point, was trained in airborne warfare, desert warfare, and sub-temperature warfare, and he's going to need those talents at the VA in each and every case because it's a mess. But the conference committee report that we have passed gives him two tools that are essential. It gives him the authority to hire and fire in Title 38 and Title V employees. Title V employees, the senior leadership. Title 38, the next step of leadership down, which is what the VA needs. The VA is an organization of 340,000 people, which in the last 3 years has averaged 3,000 disciplinary actions a year. Each of those disciplinary actions meant they were moved from one job to another within the VA and did not lose pay. There's no accountability in the VA and really has not been, and that's why the systemic problems on appointments, veteran services, and everything else going on in the VA has not happened. By giving him the authority to hire and fire, he'll have the respect and the attention of those who work at the VA to understand full well they're going to have to carry out the game plan of this leader. He understands metrics, he understands accountability, he understands leadership, and he has taken a job he didn't have to accept, a job he didn't need to have to do at this time in his life, but a job he wants to do to give back to the country he loves and the country he served in the military. I am confident that Bob McDonald will be an outstanding Secretary of the Veterans Administration, and I commend him to my fellow senators with my highest recommendation in hopes that he'll be approved unanimously. And I yield the floor.